Welcome back to Week in Horror, April 19th through April 25th. Thank you so much for joining us. Normally we have Alex here with us today, but he had to take care of some family issues, so we wish him the best and speedy recovery and all that. We'll have him back next week, but I do have the lovely JL with us.
I am here.
And joining us this week to chat on horror films, he's known for Bloody Scum, Alabama Sasquatch, and Weed Wolf. We have our special guest, director and producer, Tommy Slamo.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yes, thanks for inviting me.
Always. All right. So, when we jump into our previous week, kind of thing, something came down the pipe, during this whole shenanigans when we're all quarantined, and everything's all nuts. I found out that actor Dieter Laser died. And it took me by surprise because I found out via social media, there was a post that went out via his Facebook page, that he passed away February 29th. And none of us knew it until, I guess some people obviously knew it, but a lot of us didn't know it until the post went out on the 9th of April, which is so crazy. And it's a shame. I got to meet Dieter very briefly at Texas Frightmare Weekend, and it's absolute, just awesome actor, and just a lot of fun. He absolutely loved what he does. Known for playing a lot of weird roles. So I was hoping we could get a chance to talk a little bit about Dieter. And kind of remember him for the kind of craziness that he was involved in, because he had a very eclectic career.
Yeah, he had a very long career, too. And, probably over here in the States, probably most known for the Human Centipede.
Yes.
Yeah, kind of a memorable role.
And it's wild because, he started, obviously he started acting in 1968, was one of his earliest films, but he was acting in Germany, and he was born, I think he was born in Kiel. Yeah, he was born in Kiel, and did it was a slew of German films, but he's probably best known for his English stuff. And I don't know if anybody else saw it, but there was an old show on, I think it was on Sci-Fi. I can't remember what way. I think it aired on Sci-Fi, but it was called Lex.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Oh yeah,
yes. And so he had a character on Lex. I remember it was absolutely strange. It was I think his name was Mantrid. And last I saw, I think the episode I saw, it was just he was like a face in a wall. It was weird. Lex was a very fucking weird show.
It was.
But he kind of like made a splash with that one because he got a lot of recognition for that, and then he was also in The Ogre as Professor Otto Blatchen, and then of course everyone knows him as the evil Dr. Joseph Hyder in The Human Centipede, and then of course he played the Warden in Human Centipede 3.
Yeah, that was the thing about it is his presence though. He has that haunting, menacing presence. Like when you watch Human Centipede and, he comes out and he's like, obviously, as soon as you meet him, he's a bad guy. He starts doing a diagram. And I'm watching, I'm like, yeah, you look like somebody who would sew people ass to mouth together. yeah, I can see that.
I was out after the first one. I was done after that. But yeah, he was great in it and very memorable.
Lots of people were done after that first one.
I'm okay. I don't need to see the other ones. I get it.
I had heard that when he was on The Human Centipede, that everyone else, all the other actors and crew, described him as he went totally method.
Oh, really?
On that one, and he he didn't really talk to anybody. He was in character all the time.
So he really did stitch mouth to asshole?
Oh, the true method.
Wow.
That's Daniel Day-Lewis style right there.
That's some commitment.
He just built us into his performance. It was awful. But yeah, if you imagine that character of Dr. Joseph Hyder walking around set all day long with that fucking through your soul look that he had, because the guy could emote like no other, and just the way he had that the unique features that just I think he was born to play that role.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say nothing about Germans, but he's kind of a scary German. They can be scary sometimes.
It's so wild. It's so wild because getting to meet him, he is just the sweet. He was just the sweetest guy, and soft spoken, but he got excited about movies. and he still had his accent. And although it wasn't as bad as Tom Six's accent is really thick. He was the director of Human Centipede, but Dieter, he'd been doing English language stuff for so long, so he still had a bit of a German accent. And whenever he talked, and even at his age, because I met him in, I think Saw 7 was about to come out. I think it was Saw 7 that was about to come out. And when I met him, he, you could tell, even at his age, whenever he talked about film, he just lit up. You could see it in his eyes. He loved whatever he was doing. He fucking loved it. And, you could tell he really enjoyed being a part of Human Centipede, even though, he knew, but he liked weird, crazy, genre bending or, weird twisted character roles like that. So roles that force you to really jump out of your comfort zone and go to certain places. Right. And so, he just loved embracing that shit. Just an absolute incredible character.
How old was he when he passed?
I think he was 78.
78, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, born in 42.
Yeah, he was active. Wow. He was born. Yeah, wow. Not to say it, I'm not commenting on him, but he was born under under Nazi Germany. In Kiel, Schleswig-Holstein. That is so wild. But yeah, from 1968 to 2020.
That's a hell of a career.
That is an awesome career, yeah.
Definitely.
So many cool stuff. A lot of his stuff is in German, but you probably find it subtitled, but I strongly recommend it because the guy was just his range was so wide, and he could do that menacing, scary, focused stuff, and he could be funny. He was dramatic. There wasn't anything the man couldn't do. So, I wanted to kind of pay him some respects because that kind of took me by surprise. I didn't hear about it in February, and I was a big fan of his, and it kind of surprised me. So I wanted to kind of just pay him some respects.
Yeah, absolutely. It could have been, because it's weird when you go like almost 2 months before actually like releasing the death. That could have given the family time to grieve and go through that, because a lot of times when you get a celebrity that will pass and then the media bombards the family and, they're just trying to get the funeral arrangements and try to, grieve in their own way kind of thing. But, a lot of times the media doesn't care about that. And so, doing something like this, they can go and get their personal time in first before, okay, now we're releasing and deal with the media and, and stuff like that. And it would actually be kind of interesting. I know this is a rare exception, but it'd be kind of interesting if some other families begin to follow suit, something like that, or if it's possible, kind of thing like that. So they don't necessarily get the huge media attention. Yeah.
Well, it's a shame. A super, super talented guy. So glad I got to see some of his craziest works that he did. So that was a blast. He was, it was a big loss to the character actor, the character actors that we have out there. But we'll definitely come back and we'll revisit Dieter's work when we get to stuff like Human Centipede and Human Centipede.
Hey, that's
3.
a good run though. 77, 78 years. That's a good run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very good run.
Absolutely. Okay, well, rest in peace, Dieter Laser. We'll miss you. We'll come back and talk about your works.
Rest in peace.
Right. Eugene, what do we have first this week? Why don't you kick us off? Get us started strong.
Well, it's kind of interesting that we segue from, death of celebrity to this film right here. I just started thinking about it.
My goodness, that was apropos.
But this is a fantastic movie. It was released April 21st, 1989, right? And it is Pet Sematary, right? Directed by Mary Lambert, right? Starring Dale Midkiff, Fred Gwynn, Denise Crosby, and Brad Greenquist. And obviously, written by Stephen King himself. Mm-hmm. And, basically what it is Pet Sematary is you get this family that moves to this small town, and they kind of start hearing about, a cemetery that can kind of do certain things. And so when the cat passes away from, a highway accident, they go and they bury it into the cemetery, and all of a sudden the cat comes back to life. And it's like, oh, okay, well, now we got this cat, and the cat moves around and does stuff like that. And then tragedy strikes the family, and a family member is killed. And the dad believes, well, if it can bring the cat back, maybe it can bring the son back. And that's when creepiness ensues.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Such a...
Oh, and Fred Gwynn, you didn't mention him. He's fantastic in this.
Oh, Fred Gwynn is amazing.
Oh, he's great. Like that's my favorite part of this movie is seeing him in it. I mean, I was a Monsters fan and everything, but it was also nice to see him do something different past, being a Frankenstein.
Oh, he was absolutely, I mean, awesome. And such a fantastic, I mean, the ability to, because we didn't get to see a lot of range as to what he could do. Obviously, being a part of the Munsters, and he was on, I think he was the judge in My Cousin Vinny, which also was a comedic.
Oh, he's
part.
great. He should have been nominated for that, too.
He should have been, yeah.
Utes.
Everybody in that movie's good. Everybody should have been nominated from that movie. Marissa Tomei won for that, didn't she? She won Best Actress.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
Best Supporting Actress, yep. And I'm just so glad that we got to see him jump to get to see him really spread his dramatic chops in a horror movie. Like that he had some moments, but it was never a comedy.
Oh, not at all.
And just that world weariness that he brought to it just showed his fantastic range as an actor. I fucking love this. I love this movie because I also love the book because King wrote the book and he wrote the screenplay. And the reason I dig it so much is because there is I've always had a long fascination with Native American history, with Indigenous American history, and I've always been fascinated that Indigenous Americans, when they encountered Christian missionaries, one thing that was very off-putting to them was the notion of in Christianity of the sacrament, and that always freaked them out because in Indigenous American mythology, in their lore, they have the story of the Wendigo. Okay. And it varies from tribe to tribe, but in essence, the Wendigo was an evil spirit that manifested that lived in the wilds, and was able to manifest in men who engaged in cannibalism.
Oh wow!
And so that was a scare that was what part of many, especially I think a lot of the Eastern Coast tribes. And I couldn't possibly name them off. I'd have to be looking at the stuff. But it was huge, especially up in Canada. Up in Canada and the eastern seaboard, especially up towards Maine and the other northern states. Those tribes had that legend, and it varied from tribe to tribe. But in essence, King was able to take that legend and weave it into this horrific tale. And what was it? There was another movie, Ravenous, that also touched on this, because Ravenous was about the Wendigo as well. And where they talk about the Native Americans were freaked out at the concept of symbolically eating the flesh of Christ, through taking the sacrament, would give them the powers. And they believed that it empowered them, that it made them, that it brought them closer to their God and everything, and that was very similar to what their legends of the Wendigo were. It makes you powerful, makes you hungry for more, and King weaved it into this really not only scary but really gross story about this sour, evil cemetery that the Micmac Indians used. And eventually the ground went bad, and then anything that gets buried there comes back to life, and then attacks the living and devours them. Zombies, basically. But smart zombies that can talk, and it's because they're empowered by the evil spirit of the Wendigo. Such a wild, wild legend.
Yeah. And not to mention, just this movie's just scary. Like, it's the things that it's I mean, first of all, a kid getting hit by a semi, that's the scariest thing in the world. And I remember being a kid one time, and we were like on this country road, me and my friend and his dog, and this car just came by and hit that dog, and it hit the railing next to us. We stood there for 5 minutes. Like, what the hell just happened? Like, we were like 7 years old, And I don't know, for some reason, I always think of that when I see this movie, that moment. So it had some reality to it of being scary,
Oh, that tumbling shoe.
Oh yeah.
After that gets me every time.
Oh,
It's just like, it's like, fuck, they went there.
Yeah.
And that's what makes this movie work, is you have to sell the devastation, the grief that the family's going for.
Yes, that was the word I was going for, was the grief. Is that this movie focused heavily on human grief and what humans are driven to do in their grief.
Yes.
Exactly,
right.
exactly, because it's like anybody thinking in a normal capacity is like, well, this is a bad idea. This is a really bad idea. But when you have something like that happen, you're not thinking normally. You're not, in the right frame of mind. So, and at that point, you're willing to do anything.
Yeah.
To get, even realizing that maybe Gage won't come back 100% the way he was, but at the time they're thinking something is better than nothing.
It's definitely something you can relate with.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and think about that. Just the casting there. Miko Hughes.
Oh yeah.
As Gage Creed. And I also want to throw out some respect to Andrew Hubatzik, who played Zelda.
Mm-hmm.
So just varying things like that. The director, she was Mary Lambert, genius, absolutely genius, to stick to her guns and go with her gut in casting Miko, because I know the studio wanted twins. Because it works better for having having child actors to cast.
Would you only have them like 4 hours or something like that a day? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So you can ensure that they don't get tired and start blowing takes. Yeah. But she saw the genius. She saw that Miko was a natural talent, and just ran with him, and against studio's wishes. And then of course trying to do the twisted Zelda in her bed and everything, and the makeup on that was so gnarly. And deal with that, but then the genius of realizing that the actor Andrew, who I don't want to mess up his last name, Andrew Hubatzik, casting him to play Zelda because he was known for his angular features and his he not like Doug Jones as far as like limbs go like this, but definitely had a very unique physical body, and then putting him as Zelda. That was, the whole scene when she's walking up to the room, when she's remembering, and Zelda's in the bed, and just that sing-songy voice. Ugh.
I didn't realize that was a guy till this last time I watched it. Well, perfect person for the part, though.
And this time, I'll get you.
That's
like, fuck no.
Like,
we're moving.
No, I'm done. Nope, stop.
I'm done. So, but yes, and that's the, I think, and Eugene knows this as well, I'm sure, and Tommy, I know you know as well, that being a director, and you got to deal with producers, there's politics there that you have to respect, but you have to know when to stick to your guns when making decisions like this.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's always the, you gotta pick and choose your battles kind of thing, and you, as a director, you have to know what battles are the priority and what are the ones that, you can kind of, okay, I can relent.
Yeah.
And, sometimes, getting the right cast to get, you work with the actor, you can get the vision. A lot of times executive producers aren't there, sometimes producers aren't there on set, they're not seeing the dailies or anything like that, but as a director, you are, and you got to fight for it. We talked, I think, last week, American Psycho, with Christian Bale, and the studio didn't want him at all.
That's nuts.
Yeah, just they're like, no, we don't want him at all, anything like that. And the director's like, no, it has to be him.
Amateur.
It has
He's
to
an amateur.
Yeah.
If you imagine, you try to imagine that, you think about that they wanted to go with Leo DiCaprio.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That DiCaprio was attached to that for the longest time.
Wow.
And eventually that fell through. And then they courted many other actors. The last one of which, before Christian Bale took it, they courted Ewan McGregor.
Oh, really? I can't see anybody else but Christian Bale doing that part.
Exactly. Yes. And Mary Herron, she saw that. She saw it had to be Christian. She fought for Christian tooth and nail. Christian fought for that role tooth and nail until he finally got it. And then than we have right there. And I just love that he based the performance off of Tom Cruise. I will forever remember that. I think it's just that's just inspired right there as an actor. It's like, oh, he's a psychopath.
Oh, that explains it
it
now.
And the weirdest use of a Huey Lewis song in a movie ever.
So you think that, yeah, directors have to know, picking and choosing the hills you're going to die.
Yeah.
And she stuck with Miko, and I can't imagine any other child actor at the time pulling off, both the innocent Gage and then the post-mortem Gage. Especially in the sequence with Fred Gwynne, which was just brutal as fuck.
Oh.
Yeah, and God, that whole deal when he comes out and Denise Crosby walks in and he's wearing the little top hat and he's got the cane and everything, which was he dressed up like that creepy kid picture.
Oh, right, yeah.
It was a painting in the movie, that was and he dressed up like that. It was so fucking weird, and just so.
It
gives me the willies thinking about it.
I'm just the scalpel with every time I've seen that in so many movies, and every single time I see it, it makes me cringe.
This is a movie that legit made me scared when I was a kid, because I saw this thing when I was 11 years old. This was a scary movie, It was before I'd seen so many horror movies where it makes you to where it's not that scary, but this one is a legit scary movie. And even today, I watched it the other night, Sunday night, and I was just like, God, this is a creepy movie.
I think that just goes to show King. I will speak to King's brilliance in how he writes and what he presents, because he has a penchant for making the innocuous terrifying.
Yeah.
So just something, you name it, just something innocuous. So one of my favorite of his short stories was Typewriter. Was a word processor of the gods, where he made a fucking typewriter scary.
That's tough.
Okay? and he can do that. He can set an atmosphere to where anything has a sense of malice. And you take this little 4-year-old boy, or however old, I think he was 4. Okay, and then he died, or maybe he was 5. He was barely walking. But anyway. You take this and turn it into a menace to a truly malicious, malevolent creature. And still in the body of this little boy was just wild as shit. But that brings me to, that was my issue, because they kind of dropped the ball in the remake.
Definitely.
Which was a shame.
They dropped the ball all over the place. I mean, besides John Lithgow playing that Fred Gwynne part, everything else just I don't know. It was just it just didn't need to be. It wasn't nearly as good as the original.
Yeah, and
absolutely.
I don't know what else Lithgow could have brought to the role, because Fred Gwynne nailed it so hard. It was almost just okay, so Lithgow, really, what more can you add to what Fred Gwynne did? Could you change that in any way to make it yours? He's not really.
That's true.
The part is solidified, so he's pretty much just there doing his best Fred Gwynne impersonation.
Exactly, yeah.
Which that never works. It's watching the remake the entire time. I don't know why this exists. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it exists just to make money. I mean, that's it. I mean, we know that. That's not much insight there, but it's obvious. A lot of these remakes, they're just like that. They're just soulless. It's why did you even bother?
Soulless. Excellent word. Yes. And now, I enjoyed the stuff they did with the cat. I did. I thought because obviously technology has improved. We're really solid, but that it also takes away from it, because visually it was good. Yeah. But it did not have the essence of it, because in the '89 version there was no CGI in that shit. Yeah. Except for the ghost. The ghost was that was done with green screens, right. That was blue screen. I like that. But that cat was both a friendly cat. He was yay, friendly cat. It was like that, and then when it came back, that is an extremely well-trained cat.
Yeah.
That is doing the things, and then of course knowing how to shoot the cat to make it scary, and then the cat, you turn the lights, the cat's right in your face, that whole kind of shit. Yeah. So, and I think that was part of it. It was the practical effects and a real devotion to the source material. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And once you nail it that well, there's no point in going back and redoing it, and then to be, because when you do, it's obvious it's a cash grab.
And don't you feel like the only thing they like added or changed was kind of the gender swap, where it was instead of the boy getting hit, it was the girl? That's kind of the only thing that's different in that whole movie. I mean, that I remember.
But and I don't know about you, but to me, it wasn't the idea of the gender swap. It was more the fact that it was the little boy. It was the innocent child who is not grown to a point where they begin to understand the world. That this is a child that is not self-actualized. This is a child that does not know the danger of a truck speeding down the road.
Yeah.
It does not have an understanding of It does not have an understanding of the world. Makes it all the more horrific. Yeah.
The innocence of that kid.
Whereas the little girl, exactly, the little girl understands. You don't walk out in the road. You will get hit by a car. You will get hurt. You could be killed. The little girl has an understanding that the little boy does not. And that was so horrific. And when you switch lanes like that, number one, it's jarring, and two, you're like, oh, well, it just loses some of the point.
It loses that grief that we were talking about.
Yes, exactly.
Because that's the driving force of the entire story.
Yeah.
And so, actually, you know what? Let's ask the audience. Which one did you like better? Did you like the original from 1989, or did you like the remake? I think it was like 2018, something like that. Which one did you like better, the original or the remake?
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say everybody's gonna say the original.
Yeah, that's what I'm leaning towards.
No offense if you like the other one,
but never get out of bed again. Never. Oh my god!
You can like the original, or you can be wrong.
Right? So. Yeah, right. Whatever way you want to go.
The original, they shot that thing for $11.5 million, and that thing banked almost $60 million.
Oh wow!
They obviously did something right.
Did the new one make any money?
From what I can tell from my notes, it did. But I mean, they shot it for $21 million, and it banked, I think, 113.
Oh well.
But and obviously, it was made money. It was Pet Sematary. People love the original.
Yeah.
But I think that's what drove people out.
Yeah, I just didn't know if it was like a flop or not. I wasn't sure. I mean, it's not a bad movie. It's just like it just doesn't add anything, like we had said.
Yeah, it's forgettable kind of thing. And it came out 2019, so I know somebody in the comments is going to be, no, it didn't come out 2018. So yeah, 2019.
Make sure you get that right. We don't want nerds getting mad.
Yeah.
Yes, I've already been called out once. I finally, I knew it was going to happen eventually, but on our daily splatter, I fucked up. And I took a screen grab from one film and put it on the wrong movie.
Really?
So I mixed up Hatchet 2 for the Legend of the Curse of El Charro.
Oh, you fucked up. You fucked up bad.
So I took an image from Hatchet 2 and I put it on the Curse of El Charro, and one of our fans pointed out, I was like, that's from Hatchet 2. And I was like, what? Oh, I was like, fuck me running. So I switched it real quick, and I had to send the dude a t-shirt. So.
Quiet him down. Don't say shit.
Yeah, here's a t-shirt. You didn't say anything. You didn't say anything at all.
And it was so cool because then he deleted the comments after that. Because we had the discussion on Facebook. It's like he messaged you like in the chat, in the comments. He messaged me and I was kind of like, oh fuck. So anybody can see it, but then he went back and deleted all those, and I was like, oh, that was very nice of him. Yep. But yeah, he got himself a t-shirt off of that. So
that's right. Whatever you got to do.
Exactly. So if someone could point it out to us, then there you go. If you find an error that we fuck up, if we fuck up something, mention it to us. And if it's confirmed, shit, we'll send you a t-shirt.
There you go.
Your policy.
All right. Okay. JL, what do we got next?
Yes. Okay. It's so funny. And this kind of worked out this way because it's not intentional. The sequel to the movie we just talked about, Pet Sematary 2, starred someone who was in this movie. But it came out April 22nd, 1994. We're going back to the 90s with Brainscan.
Ooh.
Yes, a little science fiction horror film that was directed by John Flynn and written by Brian Owens and Andrew Kevin Walker, and starred John Connor himself, Edward
The
Furlong,
great Edward Furlong.
Frank Langella, Frank Langella, Amy Hargreaves, and T. Ryder Smith.
Yes.
And the film revolves around this 15-year-old kid who receives a new game, and through that game meets the antagonist, the Trickster, who leads him on a journey of both horror and self-discovery. Now, I can't say too much there because I don't want to spoil the film and how it turns out. But if you haven't seen it, this is a serious gem. It's definitely a cult favorite. I still love it to this day. There are some drawbacks, but it's still a really, really enjoyable film.
It is. It's a fun film. Like I said, it has its moments. There are some moments that I like about it, and there's some moments that's kind of okay.
Well, the best stuff is the Trickster. That guy is the Trickster. He's amazing. What was his name again? T. Ryder?
T. Ryder Smith.
I was going to say T. Ryder Strong. What was he in? What was Ryder Strong?
That's Cabin Fever.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's Sean from Boy Meets World.
Yes, that's what I was thinking of. he was in Cabin Fever too. That's right.
But I think they found him. I think he's a longtime Broadway performer, and is also a performance artist, and stars in a lot of avant-garde theater works, and does a lot of I guess not huge notoriety stuff, but a lot of character work in both TV and on stage. He's done voice acting and does a lot of weird, creepy, crazy stuff of, like I said, avant-garde works, which I think makes him perfect for the Trickster in what both the Trickster represents, and of course in the physicality of bringing that kind of antagonist, anti-hero, whatever he is, to life.
I think this movie had a limited run in theaters, but I think if maybe they hadn't spent maybe as much on the budget and just put it out on, straight to VHS, I think this could have been a series.
It definitely should have opened the door for it. I think, unfortunately, and you run into this problem on occasion, especially with scripts like this, that can attract some strong talent. You got Frank Langella in there, and of course, they found T. Ryder Smith for this, Amy Hargreaves. Yeah. But the one thing I think kicked it in the nuts was the casting of Edward Furlong. Now, I'm not going to sit here and I'm going to knock Edward Furlong.
He's had enough shit in his life.
He's had enough. He's definitely had enough shit. But I think it was kind of one of those bad situations. Child actors, they can't catch a break in Hollywood. And because because Eddie was cast early. It was cast very early on in Terminator 2. So he's riding high on that. And then, of course, that led to a slate of other movies, but the reality of it is that he really couldn't act at the time.
Yeah.
He's better now. He is. He actually is. I've seen him in some smaller roles where he doesn't really have to go to big extremes. But he has difficulty. Unfortunately, I don't really think he's a leading guy. I think he's good as a side character or as a supporting character, where he doesn't have to do too much, where he can pretty much jump into that I hate to say it's bad to say two-dimensional, but the characters don't have to be super deep.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
Yeah, and then go ahead, Eugene.
Yeah, because it's thinking back on his short career. You look at Terminator 2. Terminator 2 is a fantastic film. I love that film growing up.
It was one of the best films ever made.
Yeah, one of the best films ever made. And he's not the most memorable part of that, man. He gets the job done. Okay, he's John Connor. That's cool, kind of thing. I think probably his best performance is probably American History X.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
He was, and see that's the wild thing is that you take Eddie Furlong is always when it's who you surround him with. Okay, Terminator 2. You've got Linda Hamilton, you've got Arnold Schwarzenegger, and you've got Robert Patrick. And then a slew of supporting actors all around that are all good, and then of course directed by James Cameron. Yeah. So you can't not be good in that. Either way, in editing and post or whatever, you're gonna come out strong. And then American History X, he's working across with Edward Norton.
Yeah, probably upped his game.
Who is a phenomenal actor. Exactly, and he'll always. It's kind of like what Michael Clark Duncan said on the set of Green Mile is that Michael Clark Duncan had never really had, you could tell in his interviews, he never really had a lot of faith in himself as an actor, and that he was always cast because he was so big. Okay? But the dude had fucking chops, and we know that because of movies like The Green Mile, but he sat there and he gave the credit to Tom Hanks. That Tom Hanks sat there and helped him bring that character to life, that John Coffey was as much his as it was Tom Hanks's, rapport with the character. Always, even when they were shooting the close-up scenes on him and just doing those conversations, typically on an actual movie set, when you're doing those scenes and the person's just talking after the camera, they're talking off camera to the other person, but the camera's close up on the actor. When they're actually shooting that other actor is not usually there. Usually it'll be like the script supervisor. They've got the script and they're just reading it back to him, and they've got the sound on the actor. But Tom Hanks was there all the time, off camera, working with Michael and bringing that character to life, giving that performance every single time. And that just goes to show, it's like when you surround yourself with that talent, you can always pull something out strong. Yeah. Okay, but when you put him in Pet Sematary 2, and well, I love, fucking, oh god, and he's one of my favorite character actors. I'm gonna confuse him with something else. Anyway, you have the dude from ER, Anthony
Edwards.
Anthony Edwards, the guy who was on ER, and then Clancy Brown.
Oh, right, yeah.
But Clancy Brown wasn't in a lot of scenes with Edward Furlong. Mostly it was Edward Furlong and his dad, or Edward Furlong and his his friend. But so he didn't surround him with talent to bring him up. And I think and I'm sorry, Eddie, I'm going to fucking shit on you. The worst outing was that fourth Crow movie.
Oh, fuck. That movie's terrible. Actually, all the Crow movies besides the first one are pretty shitty.
Well, the second one was okay. The second one had good parts and bad parts.
Oh, that's what they had that was so dark they had the black cocaine in it. Wasn't it? Yeah.
But I mean, it has to be, but I actually enjoyed the third one. I liked Eric Mabius as I like that as that should have been the sequel.
Are you talking about from the series?
Unfortunately,
is he from?
No. See, it was Crow. It was Crow City of Angels.
Okay.
Crow,
I know. Yeah.
So not Salvation. Maybe it was Salvation.
Yeah, which was the one? I think it had Deftones in it or something like that. Was that Salvation?
I think that was the third one.
Okay.
So, but it was. I mean, but man, Eddie Furlong. God damn. Which I actually have to look it up. He wasn't too bad. I'll give him chops. He wasn't too bad in Detroit Rock City.
Oh yeah, he's pretty good.
Oh yeah.
Well, he's good as like a punk ass little kid. He's good. He plays it well.
The Crow Wicked Prayer. So Salvation was the third one. That was the one with Eric Mabius. And then the Crow Wicked Prayer.
Yeah.
And that was him,
David Boreanaz,
Tara Reid, and David Boreanaz.
Okay. All right. I know.
I just feel bad for David.
And I was kind of like, wow. Now, David was good because he pretty much just played Angelus. In that one.
Yeah.
He was just Angelus in human form. So he had that character, that part down. He just be a crazy psycho.
That's right. I think that Crow series is just like as bad as the Highlander series. It's just like they don't feel like they go together. They're just like different movies and like different scripts, and we're gonna link these together.
I never understood why they went Highlander 1 to Highlander 3. I don't know why they did that. That was
what do you mean?
They went Highlander 1 to Highlander 3.
No, there's a Highlander 2. No, there is The Quickening. It's fucking terrible.
No, there isn't.
Oh, okay. All right. You're right. Okay, I'm sorry.
Highlander 1.
Okay, yes, you're right. I'm sorry. I'm slow.
But yes, I mean, I'm sorry, Eddie. Fucking Crow Wicked Prayer. That was rough. That was not a well shot movie, but the casting was so lopsided, and I think that's ultimately what hurt it was you have all this talent around and not enough and too much focus on Edward, and not enough to bring him up. And so, but like you said, I think like Tommy said, he plays a bratty, shitty 15-year-old quite well.
he really does,
even in his 20s.
and nowadays, he's like? I think he's 3 years older than I am.
Uh-huh.
So now he's in his 40s. Now he plays the 40-year-old grown-up version of that shitty 15-year-old quite well.
I haven't seen him in years, but I believe that. Just I've seen him in interviews, and he just didn't seem to change very much.
But unfortunately, I mean, obviously, legendary actor Frank Langella.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Been everything.
Skeletor.
And then of course exactly. And then of course the out of nowhere T. Ryder Smith, who after this went back to doing smaller stuff and I wish we'd gotten more. Well, I wish I'd gotten to see more of him, or he just didn't have the status of Doug Jones. But he deserves it. He really fucking does. He is so goddamn talented and brought so much to that role. To what ultimately could have been a minuscule role.
Oh yeah.
It could have been as simple as that the creeper dude in Lost Highway.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where it just could have been, he's just a creepy
What's
guy.
crazy how good he is in that. And then I was looking at his credits, and it's like most of it's like, I don't know, he did an episode of Law and Order or something. It's just like he never did anything else, and it's like he did such a great job this little horror movie one time.
I wonder.
He gave it his own.
I wonder if he's just somebody, because I know there's several actors that are like that, where they just like Broadway, like just films is just not where it's at. Yeah. They'll take a role here and there.
He didn't have a lot of credit, so maybe that is what it was. He didn't really take it seriously. He probably just did it as a paycheck or something.
It may have been that. The guy probably just he likes theater more. He may dig Broadway. Yeah. He may dig the kind of avant-garde stuff that he does. He's in it for the performance, not for the paycheck. So he goes where his heart is.
Yeah.
He's done what all actors want to do. He's found a way to make a living doing what he loves, and it's not about fame. It's not about fortune. I did. This sounds like a crazy role. I want to do this. So he jumped in there and he did that. Yeah. And so we got to give like that. But yeah, that lopsided casting can really, really damage it, especially a film so ahead of its time, in my opinion, as Brainscan was.
Yeah, it was something, and with a lot of films that get that cult status, where it comes out, it usually either has like a limited release, or the studio doesn't have faith in it, or something like that, or go, straight to VHS or something like that. And then it starts picking up this momentum. And one of the things about when it comes with film, and especially with film releases, when a film's release is almost just as important as the marketing itself. Because hitting a trend that's too late is just as bad as hitting something that's too early. And with this, diving into like the video game, because video games are still kind of new at this point, Yeah, sure, Nintendo's been out for a little while and stuff like that, and people are already on Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo, but in terms of games transferring to film, it was still pretty new at this time. I think, 2 years earlier, I think Super Mario Brothers came out.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Don't you put that evil on me.
Well, when did Lawnmower Man come out? Because this movie that's the only thing it kind of reminds me of, in a way.
I think I want to say it's around the same time period, like early 90s.
I think Lawnmower Man, the film, 1992?
Yeah, 1992.
Okay.
So 2 years before this, I think they were dabbling in, the concepts of with technology, both gaming, virtual reality. I think it was kind of riding that way.
The future, CD-ROMs.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Sega CD was the top shit.
I watched that Mario Brothers the other night. Well, not the other night, but like a month ago or something. And I was like, it's not as bad as I remember it. It's not good, but it's not as bad as I remember it.
To hear any of the interviews that Bob Hoskins put on that thing, said about the movie, it was. It really, really was.
They hated that. He said that him and John Leguizamo would get drunk every day on set.
Yes. That they came down to basically, like, there were so many scenes where they would, both Hoskins and Leguizamo are so fucked up on tequila that...
Maybe that's what made me enjoy it, was hearing the backstory. They were fucked up all the time.
You gotta wonder how they got the fucking movie done.
Gotta get through this shit.
We got tequila on one hand and Dennis Hopper playing a Lizard King on the other.
Crazy.
This thing is going nowhere.
Man. There's like that in the Garbage Pail Kid movie, and in Masters of the Universe, that I just remember back then, you get so excited for him, and then you see him, and then you're like, I don't know if I like those or not.
There were some aspects to Masters of the Universe.
I actually, that's the one I actually really like. But you know, I'm aware of it
golden
not being much like He-Man.
a golden Skeletor I can't dig.
Oh, you don't like that?
I didn't dig where it went. I never dug the third act. You know, of course, Dolph Lundgren was, you know, he was a big, beefy guy like that. Of course, you know, Schwarzenegger wouldn't sign on to that shit because Schwarzenegger was smarter than that. He was the one who tricked Stallone into doing
yeah. I read that.
Fucking love that story.
Screw him over.
He's like, yeah, it'll be a great movie. Yeah, go ahead and do it.
Crazy. But you know, a film like Brainscan, ahead of its time, you know, it landed kind of unevenly with lopsided cast like that. But there's I'm curious. I want to ask the audience: do you think this movie should be remade? Do you think it's worthy of a remake? Maybe with updated technology. Maybe looking at, you know, the advent of VR now that VR is actually something seriously excellent. You know, with Oculus and PS4 PS4 VR and stuff like that. As big as VR is getting now that we finally got the tech down, could this movie be remade? You know, could we see a remake?
What if you did a reboot, like a soft reboot that's a sequel, and you bring the Ryder Strong back? Ryder Strong, whatever his name is. You bring that dude back, like that would be killer, man.
That would be kind of cool if he'd be willing to do that. And I think it should be done in VR, given how big VR is, and maybe it could be something as simple as Brainscan 2, or you know, something of that nature. But I don't know. Maybe with new technology and the things they can do with effects these days, as long as you had a dedicated director, a dedicated cast, I think you could remake it.
Yeah, I think it could. I mean, now that technology has hit the front that it has, plus the internet being mainstream kind of thing, you know, go to a creepy website or something and download a game or download an app or something like that you can dive into kind of thing. Because, you know, physical media, you know, he had a CD and, you know, physical media has kind of gone on the wayside. But something like that, and then or you download it to your Xbox or PS4 or something like that, and you know, who knows from there?
There's a lot of potential there.
I have a laser disc that kills.
that would be what I would do.
Check.
Takes place in 1995.
But yeah, definitely. Audience, let us know. Would you dig a remake on this? I think it would be cool. So let us know in the comments or hit us back as always at weekinhorror@gmail.com.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
Because I know we do, you know, a lot of times we're like, oh, original, don't remake. But this is, I think, one of the few that could see a remake.
I think could see it. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it didn't. I mean, it's not like they did like 7 of them, you know, or something. It's just one movie, and it's like, it's pretty good. Let's just redo it. It could be better.
So I've been looking forward to this next one, Eugene. Why'd you just kick us off, man? Because I can't give too much away. What do we got next?
Oh man,
Jesus!
I like that we're finally getting into these. I really do. We finally got to the point where we can get these on the roster. That's the hardest thing of doing this podcast is knowing what movies are coming up. Like I like the stuff that's coming up in May and June and July when the summer tentpoles hit. We got big fucking movies coming, and I have to sit here and wait for them to come. But we're finally getting into this genre, and I fucking love it.
Ooh,
glad you do.
All right. So this is a rough genre as a whole. Saw some things I definitely will not be able to unsee. Coming out April 24th, 1981, Cannibal Ferox, right? Directed by Umberto Lenzi and starring John Morgan, Lorraine Dessel, and Daniela Mattel. And basically, in a nutshell, right? You have a group of people, they go out to the jungle and they encounter this indigenous tribe, right? Like kind of out in the jungle. And so they kind of party a little bit and they started kind of doing some drugs and drinking, and they ended up killing one of the native girls there. And the natives take revenge. on the group in some very, very brutal ways.
See, a film like this, you see, this is what I absolutely love, is that to all of our listeners who, I know I've said this before, one of the best parts of doing this podcast is sometimes our special guests have not seen a lot of the movies that we have. And we get to introduce them to films that they might not have, even known existed. And I think, Tommy, you're in this boat currently, because you've never seen this movie before.
I mean, thank you so much. It's just...
You're very welcome.
I'll tell you one thing.
We give the best homework. We give the best homework at Week in Horror, because the homework is to watch horror movies.
Yes. Yeah.
What can you beat that, especially nowadays? But yes, Tommy, give us your takeaway, having just watched this.
Well, I don't think this movie's going to win any awards for feminism in any way. Jesus Christ! Like, there's that line, like in the beginning when they flip a coin, and he's like, he just goes, "All right, bitch." It's just like, where did that come from? It was just how mean they were through the whole thing, and like, there's like this. I don't know, man. I hated this movie.
Lindsay wanted to set the tone and make sure no one had any questions
right.
about, look, this motherfucker, this is how we view women, and this is how it's gonna run. You understand me? It's like, fuck.
There's the time when the dude named Mike, or is it Mike, or I think it's Michael, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if it's him or the other guy. He just slaps the hell out of that woman. And then there's another scene where like that blonde-headed mob dude just kicks that girl in the face. It's like,
somebody needs to dive into Lindsay's childhood. Like, is there something going on with him and his mom, or like, did some girl break his heart in high school? Because even you got like the one girl, they're like, boom, pull her shirt off, and then they run like hooks.
Oh
like,
yeah, I know.
Kind of thing.
The fucking practical effects on this movie.
Oh yeah, they're good.
So
I mean, I'll say that. That's one thing I can say positive about it.
the one thing that really sells it with the practical effects is it's a lot of standard practical effects, a lot of brutality of people being stabbed, the body rotting on the tree portion of it. But what it does is it helps. I know a lot of movies can't do this today. I'm not recommending do this in any way at all whatsoever, kind of thing. Don't hurt animals. But it has a lot of unsimulated, like, animal butchery.
Yeah.
And so when you put that alongside with the practical effects, it just hits that much harder, because, they're really decapitating a turtle at that point, kind of thing. That snake is really eating like that monkey, kind of thing. So when that's real, anything they're going to show you with people, anything, it's just going to hit you like that much harder.
Do you think that was that film for this movie, or was that stuff stock footage for some of it?
Film for the movie.
It was okay, because it matched really well. So I was kind of curious of that.
They set up the monkey and the snake scene.
Oh, man, it's just
so that was all done purposefully.
Yeah, this movie ain't gonna do anything for animal rights either.
Yes, the one that got me, the breast hook scene, recreating the sun ceremony in the most brutal fucking way was just awful. And then watching her die like that was just. But it was the when they what the fuck was shit. Sometimes their names escape me. Was it fucking Joe? Was it Joe who got locked in the when they strap him down and cut the top of his head off?
Oh yeah, when they put his head in that thing. Yeah.
Oh no, it was Mike. That happened to Mike. That was Mike that happened to. When they lock him in that contraption that pins him down and he keeps head, and they lop the top of his head off and just go after his fucking brains.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'll tell you what, there wasn't a likable character in this entire movie.
No, there was
no. They did that on purpose.
I guess the final girl is the only one that just isn't a complete asshole. Like, that's kind of it,
Yeah, Gloria. And she was the one we could least dislike.
Oh, Gloria was the blonde, wasn't she?
No, that
No,
was.
It's not like it matters, but
Yeah, I thought it was Gloria. Yeah, you're right. It doesn't matter.
I'm sorry.
They did actually. So they did, like I said, had a lot of the animal brutality with it and stuff like that. And so, one of the actors, Giovanni, they wanted to actually have him butcher a pig, and he outright refused to do it.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. He was like, "No, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do anything like that." And it's like, okay, well, we'll go ahead and we'll use a double for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so then they hacked it, and the double almost had his hand cut off.
Oh, really?
From the accident, from while they're filming it, kind of thing like that.
Is it that scene when one of them's in that that pit and there's that pig there and then he the other?
Yeah, it's that one.
It's
when
that
they're in
scene.
the pit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I wondered why did they do that, but I mean I guess that was a choice, man.
My stomach went a little funky right there. Anyway.
Well, yeah, I tell you one thing I did like in the whole movie was that little piece of music that they played. It was really eerie. During scenes and stuff, I don't know how it went, but I like that.
I appreciate that you're trying to find something good about it.
I'm trying to find something good about it, man, because I hated it. I mean, it was kind of a fun watch because I sat here kind of laughing at it, how out of touch it was, and how it's just a product of its time, and it's from Italy and everything, and
And it's so wild because obviously we look at these things and we look no sympathetic characters whatsoever.
Yeah.
And absolutely shock value, practical effects, really, really extreme shit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of the hallmarks of the kind of the unofficial battle for Italian cannibal horror.
Yes.
Because there were several directors that went into this, and everybody, and at the time, these directors like Ruggero Deodato, Jesus Franco, and Joe D'Amato were all kind of vying for the king of the Italian cannibal sexploitation film. And so you had movies like Cannibal Holocaust,
yes,
and then Devil Hunter and Mondo Cannibale, Papaya, and Porno Holocaust, and shit like that, and Orgasmo Nero. And so everybody fighting for this, and I can honestly say Lenzi, put the because he was coming off of Man from Deep River and Eaten Alive, and so I think the undisputed champion of this, I think Lenzi did win out in that because he delivered a film that not only was so horrifically violent and with real unsimulated animal violence that got the movie banned in I think around 30 countries.
Right.
And then, of course, was one of the films that, because this was 1981, this is one of the films that got swept up, as most of the Italian cannibal films did, got swept up in the video nasty panic. And so actually got seized and was not released until later. But I think Lenzi won that because, Cannibal Holocaust obviously had, some extreme moments. We got a taste of that again in Green Inferno with Eli Roth's The Green Inferno. Because, there was some pretty rough shit in that one, too. But I think Lenzi kind of, he went so over the top and extreme.
Yeah.
And I have to give it to him. While I do enjoy the other films, and I really, really like...
Way to go, man. Sicko.
Congratulations.
A dubious...
Yeah.
So I'm saying, I'm thinking about the films I've watched, like Love, Goddess of the Cannibals, and, fucking Ultimo Mondo Cannibale, that kind of shit. And I really... all of them have their own unique things that they tried to bring. You could see these guys trying to top each other and trying to go one step further. And if and you could tell, just if Cannibal Ferox is the winner, imagine all the shit that came before.
Lord. This is I can't weigh in because this is the only one I've seen. I'm aware of those movies you're talking about, but I've never watched them. I'm about to watch the documentary where they mentioned them. That's it.
It's a rough fucking genre. It really is. And some people at the time, some people dug the American slasher film. Some people dug, the German expressionism revival, and some people dug, There were some Italian zombie films are out there as well.
I'm cool with those. I love Italian
capital-
zombie films.
like Zombie and Zombie 2.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But this one, it was one of those subgenres that was really fucking brutal. Absolutely misogynistic.
No shit.
Gory fucking effects. And just push boundaries because, you're shooting on location and the rules are pretty lax there. And as long as, in some of these films, people thought people fucking died.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember hearing that.
It was, I can't remember which one. There's so many. I think it was Cannibal Ferox.
Yeah, I think that's the one they...
they had to actually prove that somebody was alive.
Yeah, right. There was like a
was
legal
still alive,
case and
right.
stuff, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The whole time I was watching it, I just kept thinking, #cancel cannibal. What is the name of it? Ferox? I was just like, if some people saw this, they would just be, no, not this movie.
But yeah, if any of our listeners are willing to wade into the territory of these films, we give you fair warning. They are really rough. Some of them really hard to stomach, and not just a matter of gore, but obviously it was, films at the time. The genre, one of the subgenres of this is sexploitation, which means it's exploitive of women, it's exploitive of sexuality. Males are typically done in unsympathetic roles. Misogyny plays heavily, and then of course extreme, unrelenting violence. So, if we give you fair warning if you want to dive into these types of films.
One thing, and I was actually thinking about this while doing a little bit of research and stuff like that on it. We talked a little bit how this was the era of the video nasties. The late 70s to early 80s. Is it a coincidence that the video nasty era, at the same time you have the battle for these Italian cannibal movies? Like, is it like now we're getting more and more censorship, we need to push the boundaries more and more? Because you take like Green Inferno is just very niche. It kind of was like, if you're into it, great. If you're not, whatever. And then it kind of just fell off the earth. Whereas with Cannibal Holocaust and Cannibal Ferox, like, people kept pushing to do more and more and more because maybe being a video nasty was maybe a badge of honor for them.
That's entirely possible, and that's interesting that you bring that up. And I hadn't thought of it that way, but it harkens back to the pre-code era, of film, when at the time they had the pretty much the standards and practices of film in the 1930s. Right. It was, I think we talked about it early on in the podcast. It was established in the 30s and it went forward. I think they stopped enforcing it in like the 50s. So it was 20 some odd years of the code. Well, we talk about pre-code horror, like Phantom of the Opera was pre-code horror. Nosferatu was pre-code. But there were directors who specifically went and defied the code. They made movies simply because the code was there, so they specifically shot films to defy it and to basically get censored. That was their protest as artists.
Wasn't there? I'm sorry, but wasn't there a thing where in a Western you couldn't see the gun shoot somebody? You had to see like the gun, then a cut, then it shot someone. Because I was thinking like in the first Sergio Leone and Clint Eastwood movie, Fistful of Dollars. Like that was the one that kind of broke that to where you saw him shoot the person on screen, where instead of cutting from the gun to the person, I don't know, something like that.
And the thing is, like, I'm thinking back of Westerns, like, in the 50s, and it was always kind of like a distance thing, because, you'll see somebody shooting, then usually it's like, a wide shot of a bunch of people fall down, and then, if they're important, it'll get kind of a close-up. But you didn't really have, like, the over-the-shoulder where the shooter over the shooter's shoulder, and he pulls a gun and shoots, and you see the other person fall down immediately.
It's not something you're really conscious of, I think, if you watch Westerns from that time, but, like, then you hear this and you're like, oh, that never happened, and I don't know. Never mind what I said.
And I like that. I like that idea of directors specifically that where the art that they're making is not only personal to them, but it's also their statement against the censorship.
Right.
And of course, every medium of art is rife with that. From painting to from the art world to voice. into films and into radio. It's akin to, I think, one of my favorite things. One of my favorite protests ever was one of the DJs on the Edge here in Texas. We used to have the Edge, and this was back when the Edge was 94. I think it was 97.1 was the Eagle. I think 94.5.
Yeah, the 94. Oh yeah, 94.5. That was the original Edge.
That was the original Edge. Yeah. Yes. So, and the Edge was alternative, was straight alternative, and I used to listen to it while I was doing my homework at home. And this one DJ, who was I guess the DJ was on there and was pissed off at Clear Channel and decided to play Aqua's Barbie song on loop.
Oh right.
So he locked he set it on loop and then locked the door and walked away. and so this thing went on for like almost half an hour. So it was just 94.5. There was no one there to cut because this was at night. It was a one person show, and so no one's there to cut. So I'm listening to the radio, and it's just I'm a Barbie girl in a Barbie world for 30 fucking minutes until someone could finally get into the office to shut that shit down. And I love the idea of artists doing that. That's a very interesting point you bring up, Eugene. Now, in the face of the video nasty panic, in the face of movies being censored, that we're gonna go ahead and make fucking movies anyway that are so extreme, you have no choice but to censor them. And using it, that's your marketing right there.
Yeah, that's it. Because if the goal of art is to create something that's memorable, well, then that's fucking memorable.
Yeah.
Fuck yes.
And so,
definitely a memorable movie.
Yeah.
So,
and so actually, this you know what? Let's ask the audience. We have these Italian cannibal directors that have been, with Cannibal Ferox and Cannibal Holocaust and a long list of others. Who is your favorite cannibal director? Kind of thing. Is it Lindsay? Is it maybe Eli Roth? Kind of, with Green Inferno, kind of thing like that. But who is your favorite cannibal director?
Me personally, I really like D'Amato's work. I really do. Lindsay's good is fun to watch, but I really like D'Amato's. He had some really good shit. But I like to know what the audience has to say about that. If they dig the genre,
I'm cool with whatever you guys choose.
He's like, I hate you guys. Whatever you want to go,
Oh, too much long pig. Human haggis. All right. Well, I've got one more for us.
All right. What is it?
Dun, dun, dun.
This is all right. We're gonna go way back in the Wayback Machine. As a matter of fact, I'm looking at this. I totally jumped the gun. For our audience, I did this. Because Alex wasn't here, and I'm not blaming Alex. It sometimes throws us off. And I didn't have time to adjust the script, and I'm going to let my audience know. I'm going to let our audience know I jumped the fucking gun, and I stepped all over Eugene's cue. We're gonna keep this in the final cut because this shit fucking happens. This is a learning experience for us as much as it is for you out there trying to do podcasts. And I totally stepped on my co-host's cue. He's supposed to take this next film, and I was like gonna jump all over his shit. So now I'm gonna pass it over to Eugene so he can do his job, and I'm gonna shut the fuck up.
That's right. We can go. I'll go. I can finish us off.
Yes.
Yeah, finish us off.
You finish us off the best, Eugene.
Yeah. All right. That's what I'm talking
Bring
about.
us to the money shot.
All right.
All right. All right. So we're actually going to go way back for this one, right? It was released April 25th, 1953. And it's the movie House of Wax.
Fuck
Yes.
Yes. Solid, good movie. Directed by Andre de Toth, right? And it stars the legendary Vincent Price. It also has Frank Lovejoy in it, Phyllis Kirk, and Carolyn Jones. And basically, in a nutshell, is you have Vincent Price, who is a curator of a wax museum, and it turns out that he likes to get his wax figures from people.
Yes. Is this like Vincent Price's first big movie? Like that launched his horror career, kind of? I mean, I know he'd been around for like 12, 14 years before this, but this it's kind of the way. I mean, I've always thought of this movie as like the beginning of Vincent Price, you know?
Well, I mean, he made his first film in 1938 in Service Deluxe. And then kind of established himself with Laura in 44 when he played against I think it was Gene Tierney, and he was actually working with Otto Preminger at the time, who was one of those ones. Preminger was one of those. We actually mentioned people who fought the code.
Yes, yeah.
Preminger was one of those ones who did that, and I think it was.
But I'm saying like his first horror movie, you know. I
think it was Tower of London with.
Oh right, yeah, he did do that.
Yeah, that was in.
I'm
39.
so stupid. I don't have nothing to add. Thought I was like really saying something there.
You're doing a great job. Just keep going.
But yeah, I think he was in it. He was pretty much entrenched by the time this one came around. Yeah, because he'd done like House on Haunted Hill and The Tingler. Yeah,
totally wrong. Totally wrong. Of course, I should have looked this shit up before I said anything.
And I think he was in he was the title character in Invisible Man Returns.
Oh right, yeah. And he also did the voice in of the Invisible Man in Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. Just that little cameo.
Yes. Back in 48.
Yeah.
I know this horror host guy named Dr. Gangrene, and he does the films of Vincent Price on YouTube. So if anybody wants to listen to that, like that's really good because he goes into like all the different films that Vincent Price did, not just the horror, but all the other weird stuff that he did. Because it's always weird when he wasn't in a horror movie. That was actually more weird than him being in a horror movie.
Dragon Wick, and Leave Her to Heaven,
with the jackals, like it's a western, and just anything like that.
Yeah, because he's in like the 10 Commandments too.
Oh, yeah, he is. Yeah, that's true.
Kind of thing. But we love him for his his horror presence.
Yes. So get back on track here.
Well, I want to give, because the thing that always got me about House of Wax is that this is 1953. And one thing that we constantly see in film, especially in theatrical releases, is studios' attempts to engage with 3D.
Yes.
And we see it in spurts as they have tried to make it work and make it accessible to everybody, so it doesn't give people migraines or give people motion sickness. And this was up there. I think it was one of the first. That House of Wax really was a leap in special effects. In being 1953 and being one of the first big ones to really do fucking 3D with and of course with the effects that it utilized in creating the wax character, pretty much what they were doing with the bodies. Mm-hmm. Such really, really impressive shit.
Yeah, also I remember I was reading about it and they said that like Vincent Price almost got burned up at the end of this movie. In that last, the last scene when they burnt, when the fire was going on. They said it's like singed his eyebrows. It started going off, and like when you see him all panicking and shit, it was like for real.
Old
Hollywood,
He's like, I'm on fire. Director's like, just keep going.
Right,
you're doing great.
This is perfect.
Well, set's burning down. You better get this done.
I think the reason they shot this one, that this was Warner Brothers' response to Buona Devil, because Buona Devil was shocked everybody. It was 3D and it turned out to be a hit, and I guess Warner Brothers decided to take a chance and make this one 3D as well. And I have to admit, you feature the fire scene, the Wax Museum fire, the paddleball pitchman and like that. All of them were really, really clever.
Yeah.
And pretty impressive. Obviously, 1953. Yeah, this would have blown people away.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And along with a lot of like the makeup effects, because I was just recently watching it, and the whole scene where he had like the unmasking, right? Where you have Vincent Price's mask like break off,
Yeah.
kind of thing. The way that's shot, that's extremely well done.
It was, it's so funny because I remember hearing it was an interview or something that I read one time that that Price had commented on the film that it was they wanted to that he called this movie one of the great Hollywood stories because they wanted a director for a 3D film, and the director they hired couldn't see 3D at all. And it was Andre de Toth was very very talented as a director, but he I think he only had one eye.
Oh wow!
So he
actually
3D.
couldn't see it.
Again, so he was blind in one eye, and he was unable to experience stereo vision or 3D effects. So, and despite the fact that he was a really good director, he couldn't see what he was trying to create.
That's crazy.
Fantastic
about
director,
that.
totally legendary director, but he had no depth perception.
Yeah.
Exactly, but Price credited him with being the reason the film was successful at all, and that the 3D tricks just kind of happened. That's why there weren't a lot of them, which in my eyes I think helped it. Because they didn't overly rely on it. They were surprised. You didn't expect them at every turn. They happened at the best moments for the film.
Yeah, and it completely works because I've never seen this in actual 3D. So it works as a 2D film where, sometimes when they do the 3D, it's weird. It's like obviously like they did that just for 3D. Like in Freddy's Dead, there's those little scenes.
Oh yeah, we have stuff like thrown at the camera.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah,
and I have to admit that the film itself is superior to the ones around the time because the director was more focused on telling an awesome story and making a compelling thriller rather than throwing shit at the camera.
Yeah. I also think this is, I don't know, hot take, but I think this is a superior film to the remake with Paris Hilton.
I would agree.
Yeah,
I would agree. Well, I don't mind watching Paris Hilton get stabbed in the fucking head. I do agree. This was.
She's no Vincent Price.
Yeah, that is. We all agree on that.
Okay.
So definitely, obviously, to our listeners, watch the remake, or if you could call it that. Watch the reboot or whatever of House of Wax, with Jared Padalecki and Paris Hilton, and I think Alicia Cuthbert was in that. I can't remember.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and then you can watch that for the for the horror, for the gore, for the violence in that. But to see what they worked with back in the 50s. There are certain films that I consider required viewing for any horror director or any horror actor, and this being one of them.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Watching what Price brought to the screen, watching what de Toth focused on, and then realizing that the 3D effects, at the time were a gimmick in order to attract the audience, but they didn't utilize it, which is why this came out such a strong film. I strongly recommend anybody watch this if you haven't had the opportunity. It's just a really fun, good watch, and a pretty effective creeper film.
Yeah.
So,
and it's got Vincent Price in it, which is always a plus.
It has Vincent Price,
and it has Vincent Price in it.
the voice of Thriller.
Yes, exactly.
Edward Scissorhands' father.
Like, you need a master class in how to be menacing and threatening. Vincent Price.
Yes, definitely.
And also enticing.
Enticing at the same time. Yes. I feel threatened, but I like it somehow.
He definitely had a style about him. He did it with style.
He really did. Mm-hmm. And, speaking with Vincent Price, I actually want to ask the audience, what is your favorite Vincent Price film? Is it House of Wax? Is it 10 Commandments? Is it House on Haunted Hill? Huge list that you can pull from.
Fuck, he was so good in House on Haunted Hill.
He is.
But I can tell you, despite his legendary filmography, I really, really enjoyed him in Tim Burton's Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah, I did too.
As the creator. I really did. It was almost like, it was kind of like the culmination of his character roles.
Yeah.
Into that. It was just the perfect time. He was the perfect age. And it was a dramatic deal. It wasn't overwrought. I just really enjoyed him in that. And it
was nice to see him in a contemporary thing at that time. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And just, and not having to be so like, oh, I'm Vincent Price, that whole kind of thing. He just got to kind of like, it just kind of, hey, it's Vincent Price, holy shit. And, you could just see him just act and enjoy it. So I really, god dang, I love watching his
What
movies.
about Theater of Blood? Do you guys like that?
Yes.
I think he's fantastic in that movie. And
I don't think there was anything the guy couldn't have done. I mean, come on, it's the voice of Thriller.
Yeah, I mean, he's gonna kill it.
Yeah. Well, that brings another episode of Week in Horror to a close. So we want to give a huge thank you to our special guest, Tommy Slama. Thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
And as always, we'd like to thank our listeners, right? And we're always looking for any kind of feedback, comments, questions. You can email us at weekinhorror@gmail.com, right? We check it often, right? Go ahead, interact with us. We're still under quarantine, so we're kind of lonely, so go ahead, shoot us a message.
Stop doing a podcast, you bunch of hacks.
and delete.
I'll frame that shit.
We have to become big enough where we get hate mail.
You can only dream.
Oh, okay. Yeah. People are comfortable enough with us pointing out our mistakes. So yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Hey, I ain't done shit and I get hate mail, so that's cool.
I live my life like that.
I was just going to the mailbox. They told me to put pants on. So go ahead, email us. Listen to us on any place that you can hear podcasts, such as Anchor, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple, all the places that there are out there, right? And if you like us, go ahead and check us out on Patreon, kind of thing. Patreon/weekinhorror, where we have, for anybody who contributes, right? You get the early access to Bloodbath and After Dark, and we just added our new $1 tier. So just for $1 a month, you get a shout out on our podcast. We will acknowledge you and be like, "Hey, thank you for listening." For the less cost of a cup of coffee. One day I'll be able to say that sentence. One day. You can support your fellow podcasters, right? And also, we have our other tiers there, so please check those out. We have our Bloodbath, where we use our horror expertise, and we take 2 horror icons, and we pit them in a battle to the death. Right, and we tackle a bunch of them already, so check that out. And then also we have our After Dark, where we sit down with our special guests and we just talk about the state of the horror genre, favorite films, anything like that, which we'll be moving on to shortly with Tommy. And so finally, check us out on Facebook, right, /weekinhorror for your daily splatter, where you get your daily dose of a little bit of horror knowledge. And also on Twitter @weekinhorror, right? And so go ahead, check us out. Tommy, thank you so much for being on our show.
Thank you guys for having me. It was really fun.
Absolutely, real pleasure.
It has been fun. And so, I'm Eugene.
I'm JL.
I'm Tommy.
We'll see you.
I don't know if I'm supposed to say anything or not. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
It's all good. We want to thank you guys again. We'll see you next week, and as always, stay scared.